out of the box.
I'm Jakka-B, welcome to my tutorial series. For this episode, I want to show all of you producers how you can nail your track structure with a few simple tips and tricks I'm about to show you. You can translate this to any DAW. I'm going to be using Ableton, but you can use it in any DAW. And I think this is a really good way, particularly for those people who struggle with track structure ideas on how you can nail it every single time. Let's jump in. So I'm going to be working with my new release in Paradise, the extended version, because I think that's the best way to kind of show the full track structure. And the first thing I want to do is just kind of make a note of key parts of the track by adding these locators here. So I'm going to add one here, intro. This is what I call bass intro because the bass comes in. Then here, I'm going to call that intro melody or intro lead. And I'm going to do this all the way across the track, marking every kind of significant change that the track has. So for instance here, track breaks down. Next, so the vocal comes in here, so this would be the verse. Maybe tomorrow will fade away. Chorus. Lead kicks in. I'm going to call that build up 1. Drop 1. I'm going to call this one vocal bridge. Even if it's just a moment. Breakdown verse 2, chorus, build 2, drop 2, vocal bridge 2, outro. So that's given us a kind of template to work with. If I was to delete this track out, then you've kind of got a rough template. But I want to go further than that. I just want to jump in real quick and let you know about my Discord called Lost in the Rave. Whether you're a music producer or you're a fan of UK hardcore, happy hardcore, hard dance, whatever, there's a link in the description. Come and join the Lost in the Rave community. What I want to do is also highlight where some of the instruments come in and create MIDI tracks so that you can follow those almost like a kind of template. So let's name this first one kick drum, then create a MIDI track for that. Just going to do 1 bar for now, and then duplicate that across. Everywhere the kick plays, I'm going to add this in. Double kick there, and I'm going to do that all the way along the track. So that's what it looks like with all the kicks in place, including in the build up here. Next, I'm going to do off bass. So at this point, I'm not taking into consideration what notes are playing. It's nothing to do with that because we're not copying the track. It's all about just kind of copying the structure. So just seeing when the bass notes come in, when the kick drum comes in, those kind of things. Let's do some drums. This is where it gets slightly more tricky with lots of sounds going on. You might not be able to pick up on all of the sounds playing in the track at certain elements, but I think as long as you can kind of get it roughly in the right place, then it's all good. Let's do the open hat first, because I think that's quite an important piece of percussion in a track usually, because it gives like a kind of pace. As it's my track, I know already that the open hat comes in here on the bar 25. The open hat goes on the off as well, same as the bass. And then also plays across that drop. Now we do the ride. Now onto the clap. Comes in there and it hits on every other kick. And let's chuck that across everywhere it plays as well. Let's see where else that comes in. And next I'm going to do the snare, which is mainly in build-ups. So let's copy this pattern. That's close enough. Another one there. Okay, so at this point we've got some pretty key elements: kick, the bass, open hat, ride, clap, and the snare. So if you just wanted to delete this track out now or mute it, then you've got a good template to run off. And I want to stress, you don't have to copy the track. And, you know, obviously it depends on the type of track you're making. If you want to make a more clubby track without a vocal in it, then, you know, find a track that kind of fits what you're after. And by no means do you have to stick to this as like gospel. I think it's important to kind of let a track grow and take its own personality as you're making it. But this is also a really good way to kind of help you to maybe fill in the blanks in some areas, or just go and have a template that you can at least work with to start off. And sometimes I find that that can be quite a good and inspiring way to at least write a track end to end. And then when you actually kind of do the detail, almost all of the time, I reckon 95% of the time, your track structure will change. So let me add a couple more bits in, go into like more musical elements. So I'm going to group these here, call that drums and percussion. And now let's have a look at some of the other key elements. We've got a piano that plays in a few areas. So the piano that plays in a couple of parts of the track. Let's call this one piano. Maybe tomorrow will fade away like a dream. And here as well. Even if we piano also comes in on the bridge, and again in the half the second break. Even if it's just a moment, even if we wake tomorrow and this dream won't survive, it's you and I in paradise. And then it comes in. So there's 3 different pianos that play, but I don't want, like I said, this isn't about copying the track, so I'm not going to play like intro piano. I'm not going to write intro piano, chord piano, bridge piano, those kind of things, because I think like it's not necessary. But again, you know, if you want to do that, by all means, go for it. If that helps you to define your track structure a little bit more. The next thing I'm going to add in is pads. So the pads play across all of that there. They play in the bridge, even if it's just a moment. Second breakdown. And then the last one I'm going to do is vocals, because that could be a key element of your track. going to group this here as synths, and then you've got vocals here. So if I now delete this out, you have yourself a template that you can work with. The important thing is with this is that you're not actually copying a track. It's giving you inspiration to make your own music. That's why I haven't added anything in. That's why that's why it's not too detailed, because I think you want to obviously create a song in your own vision. However, I do understand, I get a lot of people speak to me about like track structuring and those kind of things. So I know that people do need help with it, and hopefully this is one way that you can kind of work around that. And as I said, once you kind of get working with the track, I can almost guarantee you that that track structure will gain its own personality. The track will kind of go its own direction and you'll end up changing it. If you've liked what you have seen today, please like, subscribe, etc. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with another tutorial real soon.